welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and today I'm sitting in the Great Falls International Airport in Great Falls, Montana, trying to make my way home to Pennsylvania. I have my, well, it's not mine, but I'm playing a hemp guitar made from hemp tone music up there in Vermont. Jay Burstein has lent me this beautiful hemp guitar to take with me to the Montana Hemp Summit this summer. And for me, it was like bringing IND Hemp's hemp back to the mothership, right? Because Jay made this guitar out of hemp grown in Montana, processed in Montana, and made in Vermont. Shipped to Pennsylvania, and then I took it to Montana, so it's coming full circle. So anyway, what you're going to hear today is just sort of a smattering of interviews I conducted over the week. And, we'll see what happens. And, hopefully I get home. All right. All right, so like I said, I'm here in the Great Falls International Airport, and I'm with Jordan and Maxwell from Sunflower Films. And they've been here in Montana this week getting shooting footage for One Plant. That's their documentary film about the hemp industry. And hi guys, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great, Eric. Thank you.
Hey Eric, thanks for having us.
Yeah. So how was your week in Montana? What are the highlights for you?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, there were just a ton of movers and shakers, as Ken likes to say. Just felt like people that are doing real things were at this conference, and just super inspiring people. Like, everyone had an incredible story.
Right on. Thanks, Jordan. Maxwell?
I'd probably have like a similar kind of echo statement here in that everybody showing up was willing and open to kind of have some hard conversations about what to do and welcome international people and people from all around to try to help, the U.S. actually scale this thing. So it was fun being around and kind of seeing what everyone was bringing to the table and kind of where we go from here. It's always beautiful just coming to Montana and being out in this kind of remote location, but yeah, it's been really inspiring meeting people, and can't wait for the next one.
Right on. Will you guys help me with the sponsor message this week? So I'd like to shout out to our sponsors. Can you name one of our sponsors?
IND Hemp.
IND Hemp. Thank you to IND Hemp for putting this whole summit on and for all of their great support for our show.
Impactful Ventures.
Impactful Ventures, right. Yeah, we got to spend some time with Michael and Mary out here. Amerishon Cast Hemp, Cameron McIntosh, his Hempcrete Building Company in Pennsylvania. We'll give a shout out to King's Agri-Seeds, the National Hemp Association. And yeah, we appreciate all of your support. And anyway, we're going to jump into the show today. Like I said, it's a smattering of interviews from throughout the week. So, all right, we'll see you in Philadelphia.
Better go, you're going to miss your flight.
Oh yeah, I got to go. All right, so I'm here with Ken Elliott in Fort Benton, Montana. Ken, can you describe where we are?
You bet. Middle of Montana. We're sitting overlooking the Missouri River, and you see the Missouri breaks in the background here. It's just beautiful. For those that haven't been to Montana, come on out. You can hang with us for a while and just see how good it is here.
It's a hot week, though, right? Is this the hottest week we've had here this summer?
This is the hottest week we've had all summer. But, the hemp needs some heat units, so we'll take full advantage of that. But cool is always good, too.
All right, so it's Monday. This is, I guess, Montana Hemp Summit Eve. It's going to start tomorrow, I think at 8 a.m. You've got a bunch of people coming in from around the country. What are you expecting? What do you think what's going to happen tomorrow?
Yeah, we got a lot of folks coming from around the country. We got some folks that are traveling internationally to be here as well. And, we started this up 2 or 3 years ago, and you were part of that in your hemp tour in 21. You initiated this thing. And anyway, what I get excited about is all the smart people that show up. They've been trying to make hemp work, and we've been trying to make it work here too. I'm not saying we got it figured out by any stretch of imagination, but the folks that show up here are people interested in making hemp happen, and just a bunch of brilliant people and just excited, enthusiastic about hemp and the environment and kind of things that's, it's our jam too.
All right. What would you say is, let's do a quick SWOT analysis of the hemp industry. What's the biggest strength of hemp?
The versatility of hemp and what it can provide. It provides hope for these farmers out here. It provides hope for folks that are concerned about our environment or new product development. Hope. I think it provides hope more so than, let's say, corn or soybeans or cotton or something like that. So that's where I'd say our biggest strength is, and the versatility of the product.
Okay. How about a threat? What's the biggest threat to the hemp industry?
Well, we've been in this thing for a while now, and the biggest threat, and it's always has been, the biggest threat is the federal government and the regulations. So I don't know why the federal government doesn't do a better job of supporting the hemp industry, but they just don't. They'd like to talk about it. That being said, we've got some great senators that are proposing, the Industrial Hemp Act of 2023 and are supportive of that. So there's definitely change, but we need more change at USDA and the FDA and that allow for hemp to be used in animal feed. But to your question, I'd say the federal government is our biggest issue.
Okay. I realize a SWOT analysis is SWOT, and I did the T first. So let's get back to the W. What's the biggest weakness of the hemp industry?
We're just not a lot of us in it. We got to convince farmers to grow more of it. We got to get industry to current industry to buy more of it. Product development needs to develop. It's just young. Golly, we were just talking about our fiber plant. It's only been up and running for a couple of years, right? So we're young. Folks are starting to take a look at it, but we got a long ways to go for the industry growth, and a lot of folks may not make it. So that worries me, is that there's a lot of folks that have spent a lot of time and energy and passion in this thing, and it just may not happen for them because it just takes time to develop.
All right. What would you say the biggest opportunity in hemp is?
Gosh, you can measure opportunity at the individual level with our farmers who are struggling every year trying to figure out how to make wheat or barley or corn or soybeans work for them. So the opportunity is, here's a new rotational crop, and hopefully we can put more money in their pocket. But from the individual level, that's where you can look at it. But from a holistic approach to where's an opportunity, it's something the hemp can do with respect to taking care of our environment. Nothing pulls carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere better than hemp. And if we can harness that energy and excitement, and if people really think that global warming is a thing and we need to get more CO2 out of the environment, and the government finally recognizes that's probably something we need to do, and if interested folks want to get behind the hemp industry from an environmental perspective, great opportunity there. Make a real difference, I think, in how we look at our environment and global warming.
Okay, and let's do the threat again. What's the biggest threat to the hemp industry?
Let's see if we can underline this thing. It's the federal government, and getting the federal government to support this industry, and just instead of just talking about it. And I always go back to the Hemp Feed Coalition, which is a great organization. Everybody in the hemp industry should be a part of that. But it's like, if I can feed my grandchildren hemp grain and products, I ought to be able to feed a goat and a chicken and a cow. And the federal government and the regulation and bureaucracy and I don't know, maybe it's these big corporations that have supported legislators in the past don't see the benefit of having hemp out there. Maybe that's why we don't have a lot of support at the federal level, but federal government's our biggest issue.
All right. Well, Ken, thank you for your time, and thanks for your hospitality here in Fort Benton. It's always great to be in Montana.
Yeah, it's great to be in Montana. We love having you here. Look forward to getting on the river with you this afternoon, and all the people that are starting to show up. It'll be a good time.
Hello, Morgan Tweet. Welcome back. Well, actually, let's try that again. Hey, Morgan, how are you?
Hey, Eric, I'm good. How are you?
Good. All right, so here it is. It's Monday night. It's the night before the Montana Hemp Summit. It's Hemp Summit Eve. How are you feeling about the whole thing?
I'm good. We cram a lot into this week, and so I'm a little stressed, but that's okay. There's a lot of good new faces coming this year, so I'm really excited to meet them and connect and make new relationships. Doing a little bit different venue this year, which will be good, and excited to see everyone come out, and just super thankful that people want to be here and want to participate in it.
Awesome. So give me the highlights. What are some of the things you're looking forward to over the 3 days of the summit?
Yeah, so the agenda this year is not too different than last year, but we're trying really hard to continue to peel back that onion a little bit and really dive into some things. So like nutrition, we all know hemp food's good for you, right? But let's really dive into what parts of the hemp seed and hemp food really is nutritious, and let's talk about it at a granular level. So we have some experts come in to talk about that, so I'm super excited about that. Same thing on the fiber side. We're really going to dive into when we talk about specifications and what products on the market, what do customer needs. Just excited to have more in-depth conversations, because we kind of want to build off of what we all already know, and looking forward to those discussions. So
awesome. All right. So as foreshadowing of the episode I'm going to record over the course of the next 3 days, I want to ask you to do just a spontaneous SWOT analysis of the hemp industry. So what is, just off the top of your head, the major strength of the industry?
The strength, I think, is that it has an opportunity to do agriculture different. So, we have an opportunity with this crop to manage it unlike any other crop. So when we talk about carbon opportunities and sequestering carbon and regenerative ag practices, hemp doesn't have this backlog of history that is weighing it down, saying you can't do this. And so I think that the fact that we do get to create a new roadmap for how to grow it, how to sell it, how to use it, is going to really inspire, innovators and pioneers who look at hemp as a new ingredient.
Awesome. Okay, so let's go to a threat. What's the biggest? I'm spelling it wrong. Yeah, I did that earlier. So what's the weakness of the industry?
Yeah, unfortunately, because we are so small, we're going to continue to fight economies of scale. And so, from price points to volumes to, just supply chain confidence, it's a weakness for us that we have to continue to just trudge up that hill, continue to find little efficiencies here and there, both operationally, agronomically, in the sales world. We all are trying to continue to be competitive, because the reality is consumers and buyers, there's only so much wiggle room in their price point. And so we have to continue to find those efficiencies.
Okay, let's talk about the biggest opportunity in the fiber and grain space.
I think hemp seed as a food and an ingredient as we've just tapped the surface. Fiber is obviously a lot of exciting things there, and we're all doing a lot of development there. And I think it's going to be something that none of us saw coming to be the one that really launches the industry. But I think from a nutrition standpoint and just a agronomic standpoint, growing hemp for grain makes a lot of sense, and there's a lot of opportunity there. We just got to find ways to take it to market, to grow it better, and to continue to innovate with it.
Okay, and then finally, what's the biggest threat?
Oh, that's a good question. I think there's always going to be the threat of people manipulating the story of hemp, right? And whether it's because they see hemp as competition or they just don't want to get on board, right? We still have people, unfortunately, oh yeah, you guys are, the marijuana guys or the CBD guys or whatever it is. So it's a threat that people just remain ignorant, for lack of better words, and that we still just have to continue to advocate and educate. That can somewhat be a little discouraging, But the reality is our industry is still really young, right? It's been 4 or 5 years of us trying really hard, and advocates who've been doing it for decades. So I don't want to take away from that, but just the opportunity with the passing of the Farm Bill in 2018, we really haven't had a lot of time. So hopefully we all stay encouraged that we still can continue to make strides in that pathway.
Awesome. Well, I hope you have a wonderful summit over the next few days, and thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Looking forward to it.
Okay, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Jeff Whaling. I am the chair of the National Hemp Association.
All right, so a quick SWOT analysis. What is the biggest strength of the fiber and grain industry?
Well, I think most importantly, it's a global total addressable market that's $15 trillion.
Okay. Greatest weakness?
the fact that we need to get approvals in place, particularly from the FDA and others, to really be able to capture that opportunity.
Best opportunity?
Well, it's the belief of having people come together and working together to really fulfill the vision of industrial hemp.
And biggest threat?
Well, I think there still is a misunderstanding of what hemp is and what it isn't. Certainly, I think that the campaign against hemp and marijuana from the 1930s was probably one of the best marketing campaigns ever. Education is really important. We will continue to do it for years.
And turning to the summit, what were your expectations of the summit?
Well, certainly, this is my third event, and they keep getting better and better and bigger. And I think that we're now seeing people who are in the industry that are sharing with everyone else the opportunities that are out there, but also the challenges that they faced. Most importantly, I think our next big move is addressing the need for capital.
Hi, Eric.
So quickly introduce yourself. Not quickly, at your normal pace.
Okay. Hi, I'm Erica Stark. I'm the Executive Director of the National Hemp Association and the Chair of the Pennsylvania Hemp Industry Council.
And you're here in Montana. We're going to do a quick SWOT analysis. You familiar with that?
No.
It's an acronym, SWOT, stands for biggest strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. So in just considering the fiber and grain industry, what's the greatest strength?
Diversity and potential. Or do you want it to be more elaborate, or just quick, kind of one answers? I think
that works. All right. Greatest weakness.
Financing, inability to get to scale, and lack of education.
Okay. Best opportunity, greatest opportunity of industrial hemp?
Opportunity for farmers to have another rotational crop, opportunity for us to create more sustainable products, and good nutrition.
And the biggest threat?
Ourselves.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's probably not the right answer, but.
All right. Well, we can maybe try it again tomorrow, too, if this... Yeah. Expectations of the summit? Are your expectations being met?
My expectations are being met. It's a really fantastic group of people here that have a lot of experience and a lot of passion and a lot of potential, and this is the group of people that are going to move things forward.
All right. Could you introduce yourself?
I'm Jacob Bish with Bish Enterprises.
When did you get to Montana?
Oh, about 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, and how did you get here?
Oh, I drove from Nebraska.
When did you leave Nebraska?
I was trying to leave Nebraska yesterday around noon. I got out around 8 p.m.
8 p.m. Last night?
Correct.
And you've been driving ever since then?
I stopped for about 45 minutes to rest my eyes, but other than that, it's been a nonstop go.
All right. And what were you driving?
I drove my Ford F-350 hauling my Fiber Cut 412 hemp harvester.
And what's the size of that thing?
It's about 15,000 pounds. My truck's about 9,000, so I'm under 26,000. So that helped me keep going.
So I notice it's parked outside right now, and the blades are extended over the sidewalk. Did you have the blades extended the whole way here from Nebraska?
No, I was able to retract those in. I didn't have to take down any wildlife or anything on the way. No mailboxes were injured in the making of this trip.
Okay, good. And were there any other incidents on the way, or was it like a pretty uneventful trip?
I had all my events happen right at the beginning. Luckily, I was close to home, was able to fix anything that all those little issues that popped up right before I got on the road.
Can you give me an example of one of those issues?
My electrical cord was just an inch too short, so it got unplugged. I had to reroute that, and we ended up damaging that plug, so we just had to swap out that plug real quick. Then I was able to have lights. So lights are pretty important to make sure you drive down the road safely, no one runs into the back end, especially when you're driving through the night. So I'm glad we were able to make it safely.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're here safely. Now, did you just bring this fiber cut with you for the demonstration for the summit, or was there some other reason you brought it?
Well, Ken and Morgan here and everyone at IND Hemp have really done a good job of cultivating a good interest of local farmers, and we always like to get in front of farmers. And whenever they can see real equipment, especially when it's American made, they get a lot greater sense of trust in the industry. So being able to be here to support IND and what they're promoting, being able to support the local farmers out here in Montana, as well as any other people that are considering hemp processing across the country, letting them know that Bish Enterprises is here to support them in their time of harvest, and letting them get their hands on the equipment and see that it is real, it is strong, and it's tougher than the hemp that they're going to cut down.
All right, but that doesn't answer my question. Did you only bring the machine here to demonstrate it, or are you driving it home, I guess is what I'm getting at.
I will be driving it home at the end of this event. This machine was not brought up to harvest. This will be harvesting in South Dakota next week at Ken Meyer's event.
So he's not driving it from here. You're driving it?
I'll be returning it back to Nebraska after this. So this is just a marketing trip. Showing off the equipment, letting people see it, but unfortunately I will not be harvesting here in Montana this week.
Okay. That got awkward, right? That was a little awkward? Because it's like I'm driving, because I thought you were going to take it to Ken. I thought Ken bought it, and you were delivering it to him. And from here, he's got to get his own truck and then drive it to South Dakota himself. Is that not the case?
No, I will be returning it back to Nebraska. We'll get a few more pieces on it. It's ready to go. I just got to get a few more things touched up, got to go through a run test with it, and then we'll be getting it to Ken after that. But no, he doesn't have to arrange freight from Montana to South Dakota for that. We'll bring it back to Nebraska, make that a little bit easier for him.
Okay. Now, how were you chosen to be the driver on this trip? Did you do like rock, paper, scissors? Did you tell me the decision-making process?
So,
why were you chosen?
Originally, my brother Andrew and I were both going to be working to attend this event. Then we could both take on some of that trip. However, we are in the middle of harvest, and we're trying to help a number of different farmers around the country, not just in hemp, but in other commodities. And a couple of our deadlines have been running a bit tight. So, luckily, there's two Bish brothers, so we're able to divide and conquer. And Andrew's back home helping make sure we get some of these machines out the door, so our farmers can continue to meet their deadlines.
Okay. A few more questions. Are you good on time?
Yes.
Okay. Your brother, I understand, was supposed to be the host of the fundraiser auction for the HFC tonight, the Hemp Feed Coalition auction. Are you prepared to fill that role?
I will talk with Morgan, I will talk with everyone at the Hemp Feed Coalition, and I will take on whatever responsibility needs to be taken on.
Good answer. See, and I'm just waiting in this. I don't know anything about it. I'm just stirring the pot a little bit.
Well, I appreciate that. I thrive amongst this confusion, and we'll get through it together.
And one final question. Well, maybe it's two. Did you listen to music on the way here? And if so, what did you listen to?
I mostly listened to some country music on the way here. I did some new school country from the 2020s. I also did some old school 90s country. Okay. And I also intermixed that with a couple history podcasts.
Oh, yeah? What period of history were you learning about?
I was listening to a book called Storm Against the Storms about the Roman Republic. So I've been into Roman history lately.
Have you read the books? I forget who wrote them, but I, Claudius. Have you read those books?
I have not, but I know that's on one of my lists to check out. So thank you for bringing that recommendation back up.
All right, Jacob Bish, thank you for getting here safely.
Thank you for having me here, Eric.
Notebook with questions, but I know them.
Okay.
So could
First
you
off.
just give me a? You don't hold the microphone.
I
sorry.
see. Yeah, all
sorry.
good.
It's like, hey, Timothy Frog here. Muppet News Flash. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Patrick Van Meter with Midwest Natural Fiber.
All right, so we'll do a quick SWOT analysis, right?
Okay.
You're familiar with that. So looking at the fiber and grain industry, what's the biggest strength?
I think the biggest strength is just what an amazing plant it is, how light and strong and versatile it is, and useful in so many different applications. If we can figure out how to grow it in abundance, there's limitless markets that can be disrupted by it.
Okay. Let's focus that question a little bit to the biggest strength of the industry, fiber and grain industry.
The biggest strength of the industry, I think it's a good question. I think it would be just the really the passion of the participants. It's such a challenging industry to be involved in that if you weren't just insanely passionate about trying to make it work, you wouldn't be doing it. So the people that are, have gotten into it and are still here are just, so enthusiastically determined to push it through and make it work.
Okay. Greatest weakness?
That's a tough one too. You could make a case for that, maybe in some ways, but I would say the genetics are a huge weak point right now. It's such we're relying so much on imported genetics right now that carry with it massive counterparty risk and very little recourse when things go wrong. And to get the scale that we need is going to be difficult bringing genetics in from overseas.
Okay. Acronym SWO. Biggest opportunity.
Just the mass market industries that are disruptible. So if we can really effectively get the scale that we need from the agronomy perspective, the markets that we can fit into are huge and will require massive volume. So, there's a number of different ones that we're focused on. We love building materials. I think that's huge, great for the environment, and certainly would consume a whole lot of hemp.
And then greatest threat?
The biggest threat to the industry would be, I think it could be, in my view, I have a different approach than a lot of companies in terms of trying to build something ground up. So kind of the crawl, walk, run method. I think that there's a threat with this industry of getting too over leveraged in any segment of the chain. In the way I look at it is you really need to move the entire supply chain forward in balance at the appropriate pace and sequence. And so it's a huge threat to get too over leveraged in one segment and then kind of throw the whole thing off kilter and then set the whole industry back. It happened with CBD, just an overproduction and oversupply. Supply exceeded demand by such a huge margin that a lot of people ended up getting burned in the process, and it set the whole industry back certainly years, if not decades.
And pretty much gave us the Delta 9 or Delta 8 situation.
That's right.
Okay, well, how's your summit going otherwise?
It's great, man. This is an amazing group of people, fantastic agenda, and I'm really grateful to be out here.
Okay. Hi, Marty. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Marty Clemens at FiberX.
And tell me about the capacity that... We'll edit this, right?
Yeah.
Why are you here?
Well, I'm here to represent FiberX. I'm the general counsel of FiberX, and I'm super excited to be around industry leaders it's a multi-stakeholder collaborative, and just all of the collaboration going on here and the stimulation of new ideas is awesome.
Cool. All right, well, let's do a quick SWOT analysis. So from your perspective, what is the biggest strength of the hemp industry?
I would say that the biggest strength of the industry is grit and persistence, because many of us have been working to build this industry since the beginning, since it became legal, and I'm still seeing a lot of the same people in the room.
And then what would you say the greatest weakness of the industry is?
I would say the greatest weakness of the industry is a lack of collaboration. And, maybe that's not intentional, maybe it is, but there's always a focus on it's all startups. We're all have our head down building our businesses. So to come to an event where we lift our heads up and look at it from an industry perspective is a really good perspective to take.
Okay. And then what would you say the best opportunity in industrial hemp is?
I think our focus is textiles, and because it's such a high value use for the plants, I think it's the one that could really stimulate all of the parts of the industry.
Okay, and then the biggest threat to the industry?
The industry as a whole, I would say, I don't know if I would call this a threat, but I would definitely say one of the biggest challenges is we are seeing there's a lot of demand in different sectors, and the biggest challenge I think is going to be scaling production, getting the standards, everything we've talked about here today in place so that we can scale the industry.
Okay, Marty Clemens from FiberX, thank you so much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Hi, Court, could you introduce yourself?
My name is Court Jensen. I'm the Chief Attorney for the Montana Department of Agriculture. I teach food and agricultural law for the University of Montana Law School.
Okay, great. So describe your role here in Montana and how it relates to the hemp industry.
Well, as the Chief Attorney for the Department of Agriculture, starting in 2014, we were tasked with creating the Montana Hemp Program, the laws, rules, regulations that would cover it. And then working with that director at the time and the current director, we've continued to develop Montana's program, trying to be at the edge of what is allowed by USDA.
And you've sort of taken a page out of the Canadians book, right, where you have some like pre-approved varieties that the farmers don't need to get THC testing for. Is that right?
When we first classified it, we've modified it over the years as we went from a state plan to the USDA approved plan. We had different varieties in different classes that had different risk profiles. If you're using a certified variety, be it Canadian or European, it's often classified in what we call our low risk area. Low risk means less testing, because now as the USDA has moved to performance-based testing, our risk model was viewed by the USDA as being a perfect example of how to do risk-based testing.
Okay, and how's that working out with the farmers?
Working out great. We've not had a lot of non-compliance in the last 2 years.
Excellent. Have you been involved in sort of like the hemp grain for animal feed work that's going on here in the state?
Absolutely. We were approached by a business in Montana and a lot of farmers in Montana and said, what can we do to allow hemp to enter into the feed market? Normally that process, when you're dealing with interstate or food-based animals, it requires federal regulation. But there is another category of food for animals, which is basically pet or companion animals. Because those don't go into the food chain, we were able to basically carve out in Montana from the general federal regulation for companion animals, which is primarily cats, dogs, and horses, which are all by the Farm Bill not allowed to enter into the U.S. food chain.
Horses do look delicious, though, don't they?
They were. Montana has a long history in the past of that, and obviously our neighbor to the north, Canada, continues to have a history of horse eating. But most horses in Montana are companion or rodeo animals, and therefore that became an opportunity. Now, where we had to be careful was the THC, or using it as kind of medicinal feed, is not something that was approved and would require additional federal approval.
Right. From what I understand, there is no THC produced in the grain. So if we're just looking at the grain, in theory, the cannabinoid content shouldn't be an issue. But that's kind of where the hang-up is with FDA approval and AFCO and all that. Can you talk a little bit about?
Sure. Yeah, there's always the worry of long-term of what the effects would be. And obviously, when you talk about feed, you're not just talking about the seed, but it could be a crushed part of the plant or pelletized form of the plant. So there may be some content in that sort of feed. When you're talking raw grain into the feed, there shouldn't be that problem, which is why you'll really see when hemp goes through the feed process, the full process at the federal level, not only approval for individual animals, but individual types of hemp-based feed. But for a grain-based feed, you should not see that level of problem. I hope within at least my working career, which is getting towards the end, we will see hemp grain approved for animals at a federal level, which would radically improve the ability of hemp to be grown for farmers.
Right. Yeah. Explain that a little bit. Like what would that do for the markets and the farmers and the producers?
Well, for most crops, and the analogy I would use is barley. When you're growing barley in Montana, you ideally want to be growing barley for malting. And malt barley, it's a premium crop. That's what all baby malt hopes to grow up to be. But the reality is, you sometimes don't make specs for malt, and that becomes feed barley. Feed barley is still a really good crop. It's still a constant moneymaker. If you create a market in which even hemp grain that doesn't reach CBD or didn't succeed at a fiber level, where you always have a market for that grain and that plant material, that is what really makes farming a viable industry. It prevents crop failures at a level where you just don't make particular specs, and it creates a consistent buying market. And you're also helping by providing additional food that goes out there, like in a lot of crops that we don't even think about. Pulse crops, for example, dry peas, green peas. We think of them as human food, but their primary use is in dog food. And so you should never, ever think, in a country where we spend more money on companion animal food than baby food, that this is not a massive market. And so by getting that and becoming part of that market, you help shore up that crop and allow it to be a viable U.S. economic crop.
Okay. So Montana at this point is one of the largest producers of industrial hemp in the country. But what percentage of like your farmable acres is it actually taking up?
Realize, we're not Alaska and we're not Texas, but, I guess California beats us as well, but we're the fourth biggest by landmass state. There are points in Montana that are closer to Texas than they are to other points in Montana. So when you start talking about the acres in Montana, you can be a massive crop and take up nearly no space. And that's really, yes, on a national level, we're often, flirting anywhere from, depending on the year, 1 to 10, somewhere in there, of where we are for total acres grown in the U.S. But for us, there are crops that I couldn't even name that probably are bigger than hemp. So it is a trivial amount of the acres and the possibility for Montana.
But you expect that someday it will be one of the staple crops up here?
I hope it will be. Getting a different type and variety of crop in the related industries that bringing another crop online does allows for better crop rotation. Montana is a state that always is focused on crop rotation, getting more opportunities. Our farms and farm scales require you can't put all your eggs in one basket. And so allowing more and different varieties of farms is the key to what's going to keep people farming in Montana at a personal family corporation level, as opposed to just massive corporate farming.
Okay. And then one final question. What should people know about farming in Montana?
Well, they see a lot in the TV and movies, the kind of cowboy classic image. Montana is a massive agricultural state, a massive tourism state, but we're a variety of agriculture. Wheat, barley, pulse crops, cattle, sheep, but also we're a huge organic state. Disregarding California, we also have one of the most acres in organics of any state out there.
Pennsylvania's number 2 after California, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and especially from what we call mixed organic, where you have both conventional and organic on the same farm. And so by dollar value, not necessarily the highest, because a lot of our organic is organic wheat. But we have large amounts of acres. But it's not something that normally fits into people's vision of what they think of as Montana. They think we'd be very resistant to it. We have a lot of cattle, but nearly no feedlots. So despite many of our advocates, classically towing the line against states that are putting minimum acreages on animals, most of our agriculture exists in a state that even the advocates would find amazing as far as the number of acres per animal unit. And so it is a varied agriculture, and it is an agriculture that falls along the entire spectrum. Even our conventional farmers have adopted a lot of the practices of organic just to do soil conservation. And so that as that both conventional, organic, cutting edge goes back and forth, we think it's very dynamic, it's very fun. We'll never have citrus crops. We'll never, come to dominate in the way we used to. But even trying to bring back cherries and heirloom crops, always something important to Montana.
All right. Hey, Steve. So you're in Montana. Is this your
Big
first?
Sky Country.
Is this your first time in Montana?
It's actually my second time.
Okay. And what do you think of the event?
Well, it's just good to see some green fields. We saw a lot of brown wheat fields that they're harvesting now. So when we first saw our first hemp field, I was like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah. And so what are you getting out of the conference?
Well, it's just good to hear what other people are thinking. I think for me personally, understanding that I already knew this is a complex crop, but it's become even more complex the more I know. But to that point, there's so much opportunity here to do this right. We want to do this right the first time. That comes from putting the seeds in the ground to decortication and getting the end use. So getting the right people around that knows what they're doing and has some experience is the challenge that I'm taking, that I want to be able to be better at.
Have you met some interesting folks? You connected with some good people?
Yeah, I've met people from literally around the U.S. and a few other countries, and again, similar challenges we have, similar successes. So it's just good to expand my network of people that I can tap into when I get questions later on.
All right, so just tell me your name.
Okay, my name is Dr. Cheryl Mitchell,
And yeah, give me an
and
introduction.
I'm here with Steuben Foods, and we're interested in the grain from hemp. We believe that that's going to be the main feature. The fiber is definitely a part of the hemp crop, but the grain and the future of the grain is what's going to draw and really propagate the whole industry in the future. The grain that we're using is we can convert it to a protein, a very unique protein that can really take over the industry with regard to the hemp analogs. So in just three ingredients, meaning water, the protein that we isolate from the hemp grain, and oil, we can in less than a minute make a fully structured muscle meat type of fillet. And anybody can do this in their home. And it's a totally sustainable powder. It can be in your pantry. You just add the water, add the oil, put it in your microwave, and a minute later you have a fully structured fillet.
Wow. Is this on the market now?
It's going to be very shortly.
Okay.
So it'll take over everything that's out there.
Wow. I love your confidence and your optimism. How has the conference been for you? What have you gotten out
The
of it?
conference been absolutely amazing. As with anything, we have to look at the raw material itself, and so there's a lot of issues with how it is being farmed. We're trying to get a more united front on the quality of the grain that we get, because it is not a commodity yet, but it will be, and just like corn or oats or rice, and we believe that the grain actually will really drive the importance of the hemp fiber again and everything else that we're doing.
Can you talk a little bit about like where hemp grain is in New York right now? Like what's
It's actually
landscape?
we're developing the hemp grain. Actually, we're looking for the Midwest for the grain itself. Midwest Canada, this is where we're getting our grain, because these people have been the most advanced in the development of the crop itself. And then the actual processing of the grain takes place in New York. We're on the Niagara grid, so electric and energy, and we feel that the processing, which is a water-based process, is so unique that New York is a perfect place for this, and Steuben Foods. And then we do a lot of aseptic packaging, low-acid aseptic packaging, into Elmhurst milks right now.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, thank you. Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay.
All right, so could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Peter Dushop from Forever Green, hempcutter.com. This is the Lemetris KP4 hemp cutter. So it's basically 4 sickle bar mowers going through the field, cutting down the hemp for fiber purpose. And helps the redding process, makes the whole processing on the end of the line more efficient. And it's reliable, PTO driven, belt driven.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we came at this from a farmer's perspective a little bit. So it's a PTO drive with a belt drive line. So we're not using hydraulics or anything like that. So, if a farmer does do something silly, he's replacing a belt, not trying to diagnose like a hydraulic problem or anything like that. We've got just a pair of hydraulics for raising and lowering the back end, and a pair of hydraulics for opening and closing the arms, but that's just off of tractor hydraulics.
Okay,
so,
and
no.
where's this made?
So the machine itself is made in Lithuania. We're out of British Columbia, and we're the North American dealer, and technically they're a global sales team. They're fantastic manufacturers, but I think they appreciate our experience in hemp and just being able to tell the story about it.
Yeah. Where in the world are these in use now?
We've got a couple in Australia. There's about 7 or 8 in North America, and about another 7 or 8 in Europe, and just producing, and that's sort of in the last 2 years. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter.
Hey, that's awesome.
Okay, so first just tell me your name.
Hi, my name is Pierre.
Can you be more specific, Pierre?
No.
Can you? Do Yeah, I assume you're not like Cher. You have more than one name. You're more than Pierre.
All right, my name is Pierre Berard.
And is this your first hemp field ever?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And what do you think? Is it?
Well, I was surprised by the strength of the stalks. It's like, it really feels like wood. It's like so resistant.
Yeah.
So that's,
Okay.
and it's beautiful.
Yeah. And what brings you out to the event?
So basically, like I really like the farmer story with industrial hemp. I like the processing story with it. I like the fact that we can make like a lot of things out of industrial hemp and replace a lot of synthetic materials for health, for the soil, for the good of humanity.
And how would you describe like your reason for being here?
Oh, so I'm here to bring capital to this industry. It has a lot of potential, it can grow a lot, but it will need a significant amount of funding to grow. And that's what I'm working on.
Talk about Lancaster Farming being the impetus for this event.
Lancaster Farming was the impetus for a lot of things in this industry, brother. With respect to this event, it's our third year out. The first year was something you and I sat down and talked about, a road trip. You're going on a road trip, and you were going to come to Montana. I was going to make sure people were here to see you because you're that important to the industry. So that's what started this whole thing, and we appreciate it, brother. Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Can you talk about, describe the mix of people that are here this year and maybe how that's changed over the 3 years?
Yeah, the first year when we got here, I think there were some farmers that were curious about this. There were some people and some investor types who thought they were going to get in this business, some people who thought they were going to get into the grain and then fiber business. But now it's like we've got end users. We've got people who want to go buy your fiber, right? We got people who are talking about food, buying food, right? And so we got 2 or 3 genetics company here want to sell you seed. So there's people who want to service our industry. And the first year we're here, there's no industry. So it's great. It's amazing.
And then so the purpose of the event, can you put that in like a sentence? What was?
I don't know if we can put it in a sentence, but I think the purpose is to cooperate and collaborate. What we learned the hard way, we don't want people in Indiana and Alabama and anywhere else to learn the hard way. They've got enough hard things to figure out. But if we can share with them what we've learned, they can share with us what they've learned, and collectively we can get a little smarter. I think the industry grows a little faster.
Well, I made it to Philadelphia. It's about 1:30 in the morning on, I guess it's Saturday morning now. I'm just waiting for my bags to come off the carousel, and then I'm going to drive home. So thanks for listening to this show. My name is Eric Herlock. I'm the digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. And I am very thankful to be home and very thankful to have gone to Montana. All right, until next time, I'll see you at the airport.
Industrial hemp.